PvP. I think it gets a lot more heat than it deserves. People are quick to put it down, parroting ideas they've heard from others without trying it, and honestly, I thought the same initially. But when I gave it a go, surprisingly I found it quite enjoyable. So today, I'm just going to talk about Frontlines and try to give you a better understanding of the game mode itself. I'll take you through everything from the absolute basics to the ideas and advice I have for you that I picked up from my games, and hopefully I'll convince you to try it or win a few more games if you already play. First, on the off chance that you haven't even looked into PvP yet, I'll quickly cover the general actions available to everyone in all PvP game modes. Starting off with Standard Issue Elixir, after casting for 4.5 seconds you'll be restored to full HP and MP. Any damage will interrupt the cast, so don't start trying to chug a potion in someone's face like it's an Estus flask in Dark Souls. For in-combat healing, you instead have Recuperate, which heals for a base 15,000 HP at the cost of 2,500 MP. Other than this, all PvP actions cost no MP, so keep that in mind. For dealing with crowd controls, you have Purify, which removes CCs from you and makes you immune to them for 5 seconds if you successfully cleanse at least one. Always remember that you cannot purify the White Mage's Miracle of Nature, but the secondary effect will make you immune to it. Guard reduces incoming damage by 90%, but reduces movement speed by half. It lasts for 5 seconds and will be cancelled if you use any other actions. It also renders you immune to all CCs for its duration as a side effect. Lastly, we have Sprint. It's the same as the regular version, but this time it's a toggle with no duration that ends upon using another action. With that out of the way, I'll talk about the general systems used in Frontlines, and then we can get into the actual game modes. All stats are equalised in PvP, so you might be wearing the best armour in the game and get your head caved in by some naked Rogaden. This means that every job has the same health and base damage as every other person playing said job. So all Dark Knights have 60,000 HP and all Ninja have 57,000. Every job also has a unique limit break in PvP, and your LB gauge isn't shared between your party, so feel free to use it whenever you like. I'm not going to tell you about every LB in this video, so you're either going to have to look it up for yourself or wait for a future video about each class. The most important system in Frontlines, by far, however, is the Battle High gauge. This is a scale from 0 to 100 that fills whenever you get a kill or an assist. Kills are worth 10 points and assists 2. For every 20 points you get, your Battle High level will rise by 1. For every level you have, you'll get 10% increased damage dealt and 10% increased healing received. This means that a maximum level is 5 at 100 points, gracing you with an almighty 50% damage dealt and healing received. Naturally, you want to keep your Battle High gauge up, so don't go jumping into the middle of the enemy team like a baboon, or I'm going to assume that you're some kind of monkey at a keyboard if I see you in my games. That's going to cover the absolute basics of Frontlines. So, moving on to the actual game modes, we start with Secure. This is the simplest game mode of them all, so even if you are a monkey at a keyboard, you shouldn't have much trouble. There are 6 objectives placed in a ring around the map, 1 directly in front of each team's base, and 2 adjacent points on either side. In the middle of the map is an elevated arena that periodically spawns drones, starting at 1 minute into the game. Following this, 4 minutes after the last drone was destroyed, the next set will be spawned. Destroying a drone will grant all teams that damaged the drone points based on the amount of damage they dealt. The drones are worth 25 points each. When exactly 10 minutes remain, an interceptor drone will be spawned at the centre of the map, worth 250 points, given out based on each team's damage dealt. It's up to you to decide whether you want to fight for the drones or prioritise taking more objectives when the other teams move for the drones. However, as a general rule, you should always fight for the interceptor drone, as 250 points can make a significant difference to the in-game ranking. The majority of the time in this game mode will be spent moving between or defending the points adjacent to your home point. It's theoretically possible to move beyond these points into the other team's base point, but in practice it's mostly pointless, as the enemy's just going to endlessly respawn until they force you off the point and claim it back. There isn't really much more to say about this game mode, just remember to watch out for knockback effects, such as the Reaper's Limit Break if you're on the tower in the centre of the map. Falling from the top will instantly kill you, and draw and effect can put in the same work, just requiring the attacker to channel the spirit of a World War II era Japanese fighter pilot to take you out in exchange for their own life. The second game mode in the list is Seize. In this mode, toneliths are placed around the map in an inactive state. Spawns of the toneliths are always the same, but the order and rank in which they activate is randomised. There are 3 possible ranks, B, A and S, represented on the map with a triangle, diamond or pentagon respectively. Each rank is worth progressively more points. In order to capture a tonelith, you simply walk up and activate it, beginning a channel that takes around 5 seconds that will be interrupted if you take damage. Enemy points will be shifted to neutral if you complete the channel, requiring you to activate the point again in order to shift it to your team's control. Things to keep in mind for this game mode are that return is available in Frontlines and can be used to return to your base. You can use this if a point activates near your spawn and you're on the other side of the map. If you do this, you'll beat the other teams there, and secondly, the same Tonelith can activate multiple times per game. Shatter is the third game mode in the list. In this mode, Icebound Toneliths will become active at random intervals. Once active, they can be destroyed by dealing damage to them, upon which they will grant points to all teams that damage them based on how much damage was dealt. Both active and inactive Toneliths can be seen at all times by opening your map, and unlike Seas, the same Tonelith cannot be activated more than once per game. There are only two types of Icebound Tonelith, large and small, with large being worth 300 points overall, and small being worth 70. Fighting for every small node isn't necessary, but you should try and fight for the large ones, as 300 points can swing the game pretty easily. Here, all you need to remember is to keep an eye on the map, and keep in mind which Toneliths have already been destroyed and which will activate soon. If you're fighting around a large objective, keep an eye on your surroundings, as all but the centre are surrounded by elevated cliffs that enemies can drop down from. This map also features an objective right outside of each base, which will steadily supply you with points. Just as before, it's effectively pointless to take these points, as the enemy will just respawn until they force you back, and the third team's just going to use the time to claim all the active Icebound Toneliths. The last, and in my opinion least, game mode is the Nardum. In this game mode, objectives around the map will activate that you and your team will need to work to capture. This game mode is similar to Seas in that the points spawn in the same place every game, but activate in a random order. The points are also ranked the same, B, A and S, and were once more represented by triangles, diamonds and pentagons respectively. Oh, but Genesis, sir, who you say? This isn't just similar to Seas, it's the exact same! Well, pipe down and I'll tell you how it's different. In this game mode, once an objective is claimed, it cannot be taken back from the team that claimed it. It's going to remain under their control until it hits its time limit and returns to an inactive state. In practice, this means you need to fight much more aggressively than in the previous game modes, as Seeding Ground loses the point permanently. As the game goes on, fewer points will activate simultaneously, but the points that do spawn have higher chance to be A or S rank. For this one, what you really need to watch out for is Paladins. Just as in Seas, damaging someone trying to take a point will cancel their interaction, but by using cover on their ally, a Paladin can redirect all damage to themselves. Paired with shield, they can become immune to CCs, preventing you from interrupting the capture, and since you can't take the point back once it is captured, you're going to have to work to prevent them from even being able to use this strat. Generally, stopping this just involves forcing them back from the point in the first place. The Paladin is entirely reliant on a teammate to start this strategy up, so if you stop them from approaching, you can deal with this pretty effectively. Finally, I just want to give you some generic tips that you should apply to all of your frontline games. The first one's about playing safely. You shouldn't dive onto enemies as they approach you. Dying in frontlines costs your team points and gives the enemies that killed you points. On top of that, you'll lose half of your battle high gauge. You'll notice in a lot of the clips that I'm playing relatively safely in order to lower my chances of dying. By doing this, I'm able to keep my battle high gauge up and prevent myself from feeding the enemy points. One of the best tips for getting better at frontlines is just to minimise your deaths. This doesn't mean playing completely passively, it just means picking when to engage and when to fall back. If an enemy moves into a bad position, then you just still engage on them, just don't put yourself in a bad position by doing so. The second one is about playing the objective. A lot of players get engrossed in fighting another team and miss out on the third team sneaking objectives. In the clip you're seeing now, I back off to take the objective, knowing that if we take it, we win. But my team's too focused on fighting, which leads to the Twin Adder getting enough points to place first before us. If more of my team had moved to the objective, we might have been able to destroy it before they were able to gather those points. Do remember that you're playing for fun. Frontlines is competitive, but it's not ranked. If your team is playing poorly, there's no need to get upset. You're still going to get rewards even if you lose. Just think about why you're playing in the first place. If it's just for your daily roulette, then your placement doesn't matter at all. You'll still get the bonus XP, even if you come last. On the other hand, if you're playing for achievements, as some people do, think about what will help you reach your goal best. For instance, if you're after the Hand of Mercy title from getting 5,000 kills in Frontlines, consider which class might help you make the best progress, and therefore give you a more enjoyable experience. For this specific achievement, I would recommend something like Ninja, which has a limit break that instantly incapacitates targets under 50% HP. It can even be used multiple times if you're successful in doing that, which will help you rack up a large number of kills each game, which will make the most progress towards that achievement. Finally, I just want to emphasise how important it is to play with your team. In Frontlines, it's difficult to get anything done alone. From killing enemies to claiming objectives, it's just easier if you group up with your allies. So most of the time it's better to stick with your team, even if you think it would be better for the team to move elsewhere. It's better to improve the odds of a bad situation than to strike out on your own and create a worse situation overall. Your team's going to be weaker without you, and you can't do much alone. That's everything I had to say in this video, so just imagine like a generic YouTube outro here where I ask you to like and subscribe. I have some more content in mind for this game, as well as other games like Path of Exile, so if that interests you, then check back sometime. If you want to see anything specific, just leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. See you in the next one.